everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to top up my balayage. So you can see that my roots are quite long. Also my hair's really greasy right now, we're going to ignore that. I've been basically planning to bleach my hair every day for the last 3 days, and then something comes up and I'm like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, and then I don't do it tomorrow. But I'm also like, oh, I'm not going to wash my hair because I'm going to bleach it tomorrow, and then I don't bleach it, and here we are. Okay, so we're just going to ignore that. But anyway, and I'm going to be doing like a really minimal balayage, kind of. If you follow me before, you'll notice that I cut my hair. It's just because I'm trying to go for like a healthier hair journey. So I don't want to bleach it too much. I want to do like high impact placement so that the majority of my hair isn't actually being bleached. Because I always part my hair in the middle, I'm lucky because basically all I'm going to do today is I'm only going to highlight this section of my hair here. So basically all the hair that sits over the top covering my ends, which is what I did last time. So you'll see that my roots here are even more grown out. And I'm just going to keep trying to do that for as long as I can get away with it until it starts to look obvious. So the first thing that I'll run through is the products that you're going to need. You'll need some foils. I can't believe how greasy my hair is. I can't even look at myself. Anyway, so you're going to need some foils. I've got these framer ones. This is the first time I've ever used framer foils ever, which is weird. I don't know why I've never used them before. I thought they'd be really expensive, but then I saw them in the shop and they were like £2 cheaper than the really thin, flimsy foils that I usually use. And framer foils are just a bit more sturdy. So, foils, your bleach of choice. I'm using the NXT Protect bleach, and then you'll need your peroxide. I'm using 20 vol. I would never use anything higher than 20 vol in a foil. You're going to need some clips, a bowl, and a brush. The brush that I use are Pro Tips. I like Pro Tips because they're like a good amount of firmness. And you need a pintail comb to like take your sections and take your weaves. And that's everything that you need for the bleaching. And then for the toning, you're just going to need a different developer. I'm using 9 vol, but I should be using 6 vol. 9 vol works, but 6 vol is better. So if you have 6 vol, or if you're going to buy something, buy 6 vol. And I use the L'Oreal Dye Activator, and I'm going to be toning my hair with Dye Light in the shade, I don't know what I have, 10-1-2-8-10-2-1. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see how it looks before I decide what toner I use, but that's in the brand L'Oreal Dye Light, and that goes with this peroxide. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to section my hair. So as I said, I always wear my hair in the middle parting, and then what I've done is I've separated the front half of my head from the back half. And this is going to be a really, really important step when you're just doing like a small section like what I'm doing. This is kind of a T section, so I'm only doing the top and I'm not doing anything underneath. So you have to really think about exactly where your hair is going to fall to make sure that there are no spots that look weird. You want to make sure that your parting is basically just going far enough back so that when you start tackling the back of your head, it's actually going to sit at the back of your head in your day-to-day life. Okay, the reason for doing a diagonal back section is just so that when your hair is all down, you get quite nice gentle ribbons. And I'll show you like a demonstration. If I take a section diagonally back like this, and I move this hair out of the way, I'll clip it. When I bleach this section, this high section here, when I let that hair down, if you really try and envision where that will sit, so that's there. Then when I let this part of my hair down, because I've done a diagonal back section, you can see that this blonde here will be exposed, and then it will sit right beside some brown. And then the next section that I take, which will be here, the same thing will happen. This part here will be blonde, which will be exposed the whole time, and then this part will be brown, and that's what's going to give you like that dimensional brown and blonde balayage rather than just an overall highlighted blonde colour, which isn't what we're looking for, or it's not what I want anyway. Okay, so I decided to start at the back of my head, because sometimes if I start at the front of my head, I'll neglect the back of my head a little bit. Like, it gets difficult. I've got foils all over my face. I can't reach the back of my head as easily, and also I just like stop caring because I can't see the back of my head, so I'm like, yeah, that'll be fine, and then I wash it off too soon. So I decided to start at the back of my head, and I'm just continuing on with the diagonal back sections. So what that will look like at the back of your head is a V shape. So the highest points are going to be kind of like on the outside of the back of your head, and then the lowest points will be in the middle. And that's just kind of like going to give you a nice soft blend, and it means you don't have any horizontal lines, which are just a little bit less forgiving. If you apply the bleach a little bit too thick and you've got a horizontal line, you're going to have a really clear line in the back of your head. But if you use diagonals, it's just a lot softer. So I'm taking relatively deep weaves while I'm doing this. I don't want to take my weaves too fine, because otherwise I'll just get a generally blonder overall look, whereas the look that I'm going for is highlights. Like, I want blonde pops of colour rather than just like generally lifting the whole colour of my hair. So that's why my weaves are quite thick, sorry. And then you'll notice I'm not taking the bleach all the way down to my ends, because I don't want to overlap any of my bleach onto previous bleach. I'm not trying to damage my hair, so I'm just bringing it down to where it needs to go. It's also important to make sure that you're leaving space in between the foils, so they're not back to back, because again, I don't want it to be too blonde at the back. So I'm leaving about probably a centimetre or two in between each foil. Also with the foils, I'm just placing another foil on top of the section after I've done it. I'm not folding up the original foil. It's much easier and it gives you a much cleaner result. And then the top section, I'm just connecting both sides together. And you'll notice that I'm focusing the bleach. I'm bringing the high points on the outside, and then I'm just blending the bleach in the middle. And that's just going to give you a much more blended, soft result. But that's everything that I did for the back section, and it probably took me about 15 minutes, I'd say. Then I'm just moving on to the front. So for my face framing, I want these parts to be really, really blonde. So I'm going for like a high impact pop of blonde, basically. So I'm going to be slicing these sections rather than weaving them. And I think I did 3 sections on each side, possibly 4. But I just did really, really close back-to-back slices with I didn't leave any hair in between. And obviously I'm just being really careful to not overlap my bleach, so I'm only bringing the bleach down to where I need to. You'll also notice that even though I'm not bleaching the whole length of the hair, I'm leaving my ends in the foil, so I'm not letting any of my ends poke out. And that's important, because afterwards, when I go through and I tone the hair in between my foils with a darker colour, I don't want any of those blonde ends to be darkened. I like to fold the foils twice. The first fold captures the ends, which I want to keep separated from the fresh wet bleach, and the second fold captures the fresh bleach. You want to try and keep the ends from touching the bleach at all costs. Obviously, if you've never bleached your hair before, this wouldn't apply to you, and you'd bring all the bleach all the way through to the ends anyway. But for me, I want to avoid that because I don't want to snap off my hair. The first sections I take, so the ones closest to my hairline, you'll notice that I'm taking the bleach all the way up to my root, just like a typical highlight. But then as I get further back, I kind of start to feather up towards my root, just because it gives a little bit of a softer result. And here you can see that I had some brown coming a lot lower than the rest. Just from where I dyed it last time, I didn't bring the bleach all the way down in that section. So there I just brought it down a bit further. And you could just you just want to basically look at every single section and identify exactly where you want to put the bleach. It's not like a one size fits all kind of thing. If there are any brown patches or like any parts that are a bit darker, a bit lower, you can bring the bleach down a bit lower. Just be careful not to touch the bleach beside it. Okay, now I'm just starting with the rest of the balayage. So you'll see I've taken quite a deep section there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a slice, pick that up and then weave it. And that makes it a lot easier to get the right depth of the weave that you want. If you just try and weave the whole section in one go, you're going to end up getting a really, really deep weave, which will be difficult to balayage, and it will be quite thick, so you're likely to get quite a warm result, which is not what I want. But again, you can see I've taken really, really chunky sections, and you might worry that it's going to look a little bit stripy. That's kind of the point with balayage, and it actually won't look as stripy as you might be afraid that it is. But if you don't take those sections, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but you're just not going to get the dimension that you need unless you're quite bold with your sectioning. So I'm just going for it. I'm bringing the bleach quite high. I do a root smudge at the end anyway. I actually do that off camera, but I just drag a bit of 6, which is my base colour, down all of my roots, and it just like, it doesn't completely dye them, it just softens it a little bit. But yeah, I'd recommend taking quite thick sections. And then yeah, from here it's basically just exactly the same process on both sides the whole time. The most important thing is to just make sure that you're saturating the sections enough. So you want to be adding enough bleach to each foil to really make sure that you're penetrating every single hair. If you're not using enough bleach, you're going to get quite a patchy ginger result. But if you add enough bleach to really, really fully saturate all of the hair, it will give you a much cleaner lift. So the toners that I ended up using were a 712 and a 912. And here I'm just mixing up the 712, which is kind of like an ashy brown colour, a bit lighter than my root colour, but not majorly. And I'm just going to go in between all the foils that I've done and bring down the 712. So effectively putting in lowlights, which again is just going to exaggerate the contrast between the brown and the blonde. So that's what I'm doing here. This step is going to make the overall result of my hair colour be dramatically darker. So if you don't want to darken your hair colour, you just want to top up your balayage, you just skip this step completely and you wouldn't tone the hair in between your foils. Or you can just go in with a toner 1 shade darker. So if you're planning to tone your blonde balayage to a level of a 9, you could just go in with an 812. Because it is just nice if you can knock out a bit of the warmth without darkening it. But if you're going to go and tone everything at a level of a 9, unless all of your hair is at a level of a 9, that toner won't help with the previous colour, if that makes any sense. So that's an option as well. And I'm using a balayage board just so that my hands don't get messy, but also so that I can really push the product into the hair. And what I'm doing here is the reason why it's so important for all of your blonde ends to be tucked away in a foil, because anything that's exposed will go brown. And so you don't want to have like loads of brown ends. That just won't be a good look. And here I'm mixing up my toner for the rest of the hair. So in a minute, I'm going to go downstairs. I don't do this on camera, but I'm going to go downstairs, take out all of my foils, wash my hair, and then I toned all of these sections to a level of an 8. So I toned them I toned them down. I think they could have been a level of a 9, but I decided to tone them to an 8 just because I wanted like a cooler, mushroomy brown result. But again, if you want a blonde result, just don't tone it as dark. This part here just looks really satisfying, and I feel like it demonstrates the ribbons really clearly. Okay, so I'm out of the shower and I've let my hair air dry for a bit. I'm so excited. I'm loving the way that it's drying, but I'm going to quickly dry it properly and then I'll be back. That was an ick. Okay, yeah, but this is the finished result. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I got a bit carried away when I was toning it, and I actually just spontaneously decided that all of these underneath sections should be browner. So I actually just got a base 6, which is my root colour, and I dragged it all the way down to the ends. I didn't leave it on for like that long because I didn't want it to actually be completely as dark as my ends, but I did darken it a lot. And then I also went in with the 6 and I kind of just dragged it down here. So it's a bit darker than what I originally planned, but it just felt right in the moment. And you know what? I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I'm loving it, actually. It feels like brown, but better, you know? And I'm thinking as the toner fades out in a few weeks, it will start to look blonde again anyway. And then I can kind of like reassess if I want to tone it down again or play with it blonde. Like, I can basically just play around with it now. But I'm really, really happy. I feel like the little like pops of blonde next to the brunette look exactly how I envisioned. I'm happy with my money pieces. I feel like they're just the right amount of blonde without washing me out. Living for it. I'll show you the back as well. I haven't actually checked the back yet, so we'll be looking together. Hoping it looks as planned. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way that it looks. But yeah, that's everything. I'll list all the products that I used in the description. If you've got any questions, leave a comment. And that's it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.